to another episode of the Bella Grayce Podcast, where we are helping you transform your life, mind, body, and soul. Whether you are struggling to find balance, using unhealthy coping mechanisms, I totally messed that up.
You're doing great.
Or you just want to unlock the root cause of what's holding you back from living your best life, Bella Grayce Coaching can help you transform your life, mind, body, and soul. And today we have a very special guest. So, yes, this is Rosie.
I'm Rosie, and
I'm Teresa. And our guest today is Arthur.
Guess who's back again. Yeah. Arthur's back. Tell a friend.
welcome, Arthur. We're
Yes.
so
Nice to
happy
have
that
you.
you are here. Thank
Appreciate
you for
it.
joining us.
Thank you.
We will be talking about men's mental health.
Yes.
So,
and physical
yes.
health. And physical health.
Yeah.
yes.
Because Arthur is a self-proclaimed gym rat.
Self-proclaimed, heavy on self-proclaimed. Yeah, definitely not that big of a gym rat. I aspire to be this physique, to have this physique, but yeah, it's work in progress. We're all in a work in progress.
You
I feel
are.
like, yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, my name's Arthur, and so if you haven't seen me before on the podcast, I really encourage you to go check out those episodes where I talked a little bit about my past, my journey, where did I fall, and just, I think you called it my bad boy resume,
Yes,
right? And so,
exactly. Yes, and they'll be linked in the show notes, so we'll make sure that they're there.
but yeah, just a little bit about myself. I mean, I have the privilege and the honor to actually lead a mental health connect group for our church, Shoreline. Shout out Shoreline. Go ahead and drop a big comment down below if you love Shoreline. I know I do. And so I've been leading now for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so we actually teach Jesus and our identity in Jesus Christ with a lean and an emphasis in mental health. And so there's definitely great things that we touch on. Like I get to lead this group every other Thursday. Shout out to you. You recently joined our group, and so we had fun playing some tennis, eating some brunch, and a lot of people love those in-person hangouts. But
my shoulders were sore. I woke up the next morning and I was like, why do my arms hurt? Oh yeah. I played tennis yesterday.
Yeah. So you had some good tennis skills actually there, and so yeah. You're really
I
good.
need to join that group.
You should just come out and play tennis with us.
Yeah.
So if we're
I'll
around
just
the corner.
pick the balls and I'll just.
It was all levels. It was all levels of experience.
All over the board.
Yeah.
It was super
It
fun.
was so fun. No judgment.
It sounds fun.
There were air balls going on. I hit it into the net several times. No judgment. It was a safe zone. Like everybody was just laughing and having a good time.
And that's what it's all about. Just having fun and just spending time with people and
And that's one of the things I really find having fun in these days, actually connecting with community. And what better way to connect with community than to actually lean in connect groups. So if you're not in a connect group, I strongly encourage you to connect. Join a connect group. It'll be the best thing you ever done. Why? Because Christianity is not a solo sport. I repeat, Christianity is not a solo sport. And so, go ahead and get plugged in. Your people are waiting for you. And I've been guilty in the past of actually not putting myself out there, stepping outside of my comfort zone. And so it's crazy when you do step outside your comfort zone, just that amazing life that God has in store for you on the other side.
Yeah.
And so besides leading a mental health connect group, we talked a little bit about this, but I love going to the gym. And so I go 5 days, 6 days a week or something like that. So I go twice a day. In the mornings, I wake up 7 in the morning.
Twice a day?
Yeah, so I'm in the gym at 7:30, run 4 miles, fasted cardio, so I don't eat anything until like 11 o'clock. And then in the afternoons, I go and I lift weights. And that's just some of the ways.
I go to the gym as well, but you are doing that extra work. I go once a day, and usually it's after work.
Okay,
And I try to go for 5 days. There was a time where I used to go 7 days, but now I just go 5. I'm lucky if I get in there 4 or 3 times now.
You know what? I think you just summed up what you should be doing. If you're crazy and don't have a life, just kidding. But I feel like I am crazy. Half of that is true. You're going to be like me and just going to the gym twice a day. But I enjoy it. I love it. It's just some of the ways that I kind of repay my body back, refuel myself, you know what I mean? So I just get so much of a cathartic feeling being able to like lift weights, sweat, run, push myself, and just like, that's fun to me.
Yeah,
So-
there is some kind of reward working out because you realize that it's mind over matter and you can actually do more than you think you're capable of. And sometimes you push yourself and then discipline is like what gets you going and consistency.
Yep.
And you learn so much by going to the gym, not just, going in there and going on the treadmill. No, like sometimes throughout the time, it teaches you more than you think.
You know what? You're getting deep really quickly. And so like I feel like you're just preaching a sermon right now. But
No,
yeah, right.
I'm sorry. I tend to do that.
Yeah,
Just like,
she
okay.
does, yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
to your point, you're right. Exactly. I think we learn so much about ourselves by
Mhm.
how we treat the gym, right? Because gym is a place of struggle. It's a place of
Yeah.
discomfort. And so having a routine, sticking with it, that commitment, that day in, day out, being able to go in, like nobody's pushing you. You have to push yourself. And so,
Yeah.
but in life,
Unless you have a trainer.
yeah.
But
Well, yeah,
but,
that's true.
but trainers are good.
Yeah.
They teach you things.
Yeah. I wish I had a
push you-
trainer. Yeah,
They
that'd be
push
dope.
you to your limit.
They do.
Yes,
They
yeah.
really do. And as they should. Like, we're paying
Yeah.
good money. Like, push me. I want to look exactly like Brad Pitt in the movie. What's it called? Fury?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna say Arnold.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Predator. Yeah, 1980s, great movie.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yes.
she was asking me earlier
Yes.
how old you are. And I told her, I said, I think we're in the same, we're both millennials, right?
Yep. Yeah. Older millennials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
older millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're almost the same age bracket.
Yep.
35.
35.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so we're the same age.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you class 07?
Yeah.
All right. What's up?
Yeah.
Okay.
See?
Like that, heck
She
yeah.
was asking, and she thought you were in your 20s. And I was like, no, he's in his 30s.
I get that a lot. Yeah.
And ladies, he is single.
Yeah.
So,
Single. Ready to mingle.
yes, he is a Christian. That's a plus. That's
Yes.
the best part of.
That is
Yeah,
the
of
best
that.
part. Everything else
Yeah.
is downhill from there. Just kidding. But yeah, no, it's I totally credit my faith to everything that's happened to me. I'm so blessed to be able to be in this position, even to be with you all talking. And so thank you again for inviting me on here. I feel part of the fam.
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
Yes.
I know you have a mental health connect group.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to create that?
Wow.
What is the motive?
That is a great question. So, okay, you're never going to believe this. Okay, let's rewind the clock.
All right.
Okay.
The year is 2022. Pandemic, we're still in pandemic. I told myself, I guess I got to give community a shot. Been going to Shoreline since 2016, never joined a Connect group, never really served. And so I put myself out there. At the time I was dating this girl and she invited me to join what is now the Mental Health Connect group.
Oh.
She invited me. And actually, let's go even deeper. She invited me to Shoreline. And so I would have never found Shoreline. I would have never joined this Connect group had it not been for my ex.
Have you found Jesus yet?
Yes,
or-
I did.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah. So I grew up basically Christian. Parents took me to church at an early age. Got saved back in 01, baptized in 02, and yeah. And then what everybody else does at 18, 19, I took a vacation from God and just went to go
Yeah.
party, do my
Sounds
own
like-
thing, YOLO. And so yeah,
Sounds
sounds
like most of us.
yeah.
Everyone goes through that.
Yeah.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah, had some crazy days and crazy nights. And so, anyways, fast forward to 2022, joined this Connect group. At the time, Becca was leading it. I don't know if you know Becca, but she was really great. She's really awesome. Shout out, Becca, if you're watching, if you're listening. She lives in Austin, so Austin love.
Yes.
And she was leading the group, really great. She has mental health credentials, and she's a professional in the field. And so, anyways, she was leading our group, and it came to a point in time that she was going to move on, and she was just going to see what she was going to do next. And so she approached me, and she was like, "Hey, I see that you really participate a lot. You're one of the first ones to jump up and talk. Would you want to lead?" And I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. I don't know much. I feel like you taught me everything I know, and I don't know anything else about this. But you know what? I'd love to jump in. At the time, we were like about 8 or 9 strong, 10 strong. And so at the same time, I also didn't want them to just be dispersed. I feel like we had just created a synergy. We had created a connection. And so I just wanted to keep that going. And so I was like, yeah, I'll gladly do my best and fill those shoes. And here we are 2 years later. And so, yeah, I've been leading ever since. I've learned so much about leading. I feel like every leader can probably relate to me on this. Is you learn so much by leading, by doing the wrong things and then knowing what to do next, right?
Yeah.
And so,
lessons learned.
right? And
There's only one way.
then there's only one way, and that's right. You gotta fail in order to succeed. And so, it's funny. I had some people push me, but I came close to even. A lot of people don't know this. I'll be vulnerable. I came close to stopping it, like doing away with it. I reached a point. I think it was maybe December. No. It was probably sooner than that. Maybe last summer, something like that. There was a season where it was just like I prepared because it's all online. Everybody joins in online and prepare, spend all week preparing. One, maybe two people would show up. And I feel so defeated, so discouraged. And I'm like, God, is this what you want me to do? Like, I just don't understand. Like, I'm putting myself out there, but at the same time, like, we all know we want those numbers, right? We want to have 10, 15, 20 people joining in, smiling, just like the picture shows, right? And that's what we see in church. Like, we see community in action, CIA. And so, but no, it was the opposite for me. And so I really had to fight through, like, okay, is this really what I'm called to do? And so I remember I spent a lot of time in prayer talking to God, asking God, like, and God really told me at that time was like, before I have you speak to 10, 15, 20, 25 people, I want you to get good at speaking to two or three people. So incredibly humbling. And I was like, okay,
we
God.
have to be good stewards of what we have before, like, what is it? He who is faithful with a little will be faithful with much. And so I feel like God really does, like, he waits until we're ready, and it's not always when we want it to be. And, like, you have to pay attention to that. Like, I tell people all the time that are like, oh, I want to grow, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I don't know why I'm not hearing from God. There's no movement. There's no, I feel like I'm not going anywhere. And I always tell people, like, take a moment and reflect on where you could be growing. Like, you're not growing here because you haven't grown here. And, like, really going inward and seeing where I need to do the work.
That's so real. That's so good. And I think that's a way where you get weeded out, right? Like, are you in it for the numbers? Are you in it for the clout, the recognition? Are you just in it for all these other things, the Instagram likes? Or is it the fact that, hey, you really feel that purpose, you really feel that passion, that call on your life to be able to do this? And yes, and so I did. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I leaned fully in. And there was a lot of times where I spoke to maybe one person. We had a great time, and it was fun. And so I kept going and going. And fast forward today, now we're about 20-ish people, regulars, like jumping on. And
we took over another broken egg. Their patio.
Shout out Broken Egg.
That's amazing.
God is so good. It's so crazy. And it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't easy at any point. Even through it, I feel like I'll say this. I even had people kind of tell me like indirectly and directly kind of tell me like, are you gonna give us a break? Are you gonna just like, you're gonna do something else? Or indirectly kind of put me down not to like pursue this and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's normal. There's always those voices, whether they're internal or outside. There's always those people that are, or voices that you're gonna hear like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Like, who do you think you are? And because I've been through that as well.
Right.
Where I was like, what? Who am I? Like, what makes me so special? But no.
We all have a choice at that moment to be able to listen to those voices or to listen to who really matters. And, God really matters. And if he's saying this is for you, nothing can stand against you unless it's going to be yourself saying, I'm going to stop.
Right.
And so I think that's what happened to me. I was just like, I made a decision. I'm just going to lean fully forward. Everybody can say whatever it is they want to say. Don't forget. Don't you remember that passage? New Testament. I'm blanking on the book. I'm blanking on the verse. I'm blanking on the chapter. But remember blind man?
Let's go.
Blind man Bartimaeus. Remember when blind man Bartimaeus, whenever he wanted to get healed, he wanted to see. Before he even got up, before when he was calling out to Jesus, everybody around him was telling him to shut up, be quiet. And it says, scripture says he even yelled louder. Like he didn't let the people around him sway him. He knew who he was asking. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to see. And
He
so
wanted to see Jesus
Yeah.
walk,
And
and
so-
Jesus heard him.
yeah. And so if you find yourself in a similar situation right now where you are on the fence, maybe you've been doing church, or maybe you've been doing community, or maybe you've been doing this dream and goal for a while now, and now it's been year or 2.5, and you're just seeing slow progress, or maybe little to no progress. Don't give up. Jeremiah 29:11 says,
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. And so that verse right there, it confirms that, hey, when God puts a plan in your life, he's going to make sure that it comes to fruition, because he has a plan for you. He has a plan for me. He has a plan for all of us.
Yeah.
And so none of us can go through life thinking that we don't. And so, that's a little bit about, I guess, myself and just like how I got connected in Mental Health Connect Group. Today it's thriving, it's successful. I love it. People are connecting more now than ever. And so, but again, there was a season where it wasn't, and that's okay. And it's like, I think those seasons really define us, right?
Right.
When we go through it.
Yeah. So, you recently said on your podcast, because you not only
Uh-oh, what did I say?
you not only have a mental health connect group, you also have a podcast called Outside the Church Walls, and I shout it out all the time on
Thank you
our
so much.
podcast.
I really appreciate that.
She does.
I do, because I think it's amazing. And I talked about it last episode because I was kind of introducing you, saying
Sure.
who you are. But on your episode recently, I think it was randomly on Spotify. Like I just had it playing, so it was playing random episodes. So I don't know which episode it was, but you talked about how you fasted from the gym.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yes, I did fast. So why fasting? So fasting is really great for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it really helps you tether your faith back to God. It helps you really just understand who is number one. And I think a lot of times in our heart, we inadvertently or advertently, we kind of put things at number one without even realizing it. We put our diets, we put our workouts, we put, maybe our kids, or maybe those Netflix shows, whatever it may be. I think I really identified with it being like the gym being one of them. And I've fasted from social media before, Netflix before, even YouTube from before, just because I'm a guy. I love digging into like car shows on YouTube and everything and all this crazy stuff. But yeah, like once I was able to put that aside and then actually focus on God, I was able to really kind of strengthen my faith in God. It just really helps you understand, like, okay, I'm prioritizing God. So then when the fast is over, it's like, okay, like I don't necessarily have to be chasing after all these things that had my heart number one. Like now I can just like be putting God number one every day in my life. And so that's what I do. Even before I go to work out in the mornings, like 6:30 in the morning, I'm up reading my verses. Like right now I'm reading through Romans. I'm reading through Romans chapter 12. And so it's amazing. Shout out Paul, one of the greatest literary writers of the Bible. And so, and so that's one of the things, like I start my day off because it really sets the tone for my day. And so, it's like fasting is really powerful, and it doesn't have to be that you have to fast from food, and just look at something that maybe that takes your heart or takes your time up a lot, and just give that to God and say, God, I'm going to give this to you, and I'm going to focus more on you. And you'll just see how just mentally, physically, and spiritually you just start to turn around. So,
I love that, because I fasted before too from several things.
Nice.
So it's definitely, fasting is definitely a good way for you to just put everything else second, and just put your focus on God, and just know that with God all things are possible. And
Luke 18:27. Yeah, that's a great
he
verse.
comes first, and because without God, like nothing makes sense. Everything's chaos. So you definitely need to have a firm, strong foundation.
Amen.
And I love that. Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. I really have you, Teresa. Have you fasted?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yes. I normally when I fast social media, which is kind of hard because a lot of what I do is based on social media.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I have found that whenever I do fast social media and I have to post for work, like I go on, I post whatever it is, but then I don't scroll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's where I get stuck.
Yeah.
Is like,
that's good.
I'll post and then I start scrolling and then I scroll and I scroll and 20, 30, 40 minutes have gone by and I'm still scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or
Guilty.
whatever. Yeah. And so whenever I'm fasting and trying to be intentional with my time, I will post and then I will close and open the Bible app.
Yeah.
I try to make it like that new habit of
That's
like
awesome.
Yeah.
Swapping one thing out for another.
Do y'all have a favorite translation that y'all read from in the Bible?
I like them all. I like the
Yeah.
Message and the Passion, but of course you can't
Nice.
get the Passion in all the chapters because it's not fully translated.
Mm,
But the Passion is one of my absolute favorites.
I haven't read it. I heard about it, but I haven't read it. I need to
Yeah.
check it out.
It's really good. Like I feel like it's more storytelling. Like it's got
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
it picks up on words that I don't normally see in other translations. So then it will like spark my interest to like go search for the Greek for the original text
That's
and
awesome.
like
I like that.
yeah.
I love
So-
that. I nerd out about that kind of stuff
Yeah.
too. What about you, Rosie?
Well, my husband and I recently bought a Bible together. It's a study Bible that
That's
we
cool.
both been reading at night.
That's amazing.
He reads to me. That's my bedtime story. He reads to me, or I'll read to him. But normally he reads to me, and I love that because it's like I'm getting a bedtime story.
Wow, that's
But,
good. I love
Yeah,
that.
and then our kids will curl up in bed and they'll get it too. So it's nice. But right now we're still, I think, in Genesis because we're still in the Abraham story.
The best book.
So
The
we're-
first book.
Yeah,
Lay
and
the
it's
foundation.
And it's so good, so good. You realize like all the mistakes that the man kept making, and God still found favor over him. God
Yeah.
still he's Abraham, the father of all nations, for a reason, and it's just crazy like how he becomes who God calls him to be, and where he goes, where he's been, and where he's going, and what he did with his life, and then how other people just descended, all these nations descended from one man.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy, and it's so much history.
I love Joseph's story in there, and one of
I
my
love
favorite
Joseph.
verses is like Genesis 50:20 when it says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for
Ooh.
good."
Yeah.
Yes.
So like,
I love that. Yeah. Joseph is actually one of my favorite Bible people because God spoke to him through dreams and he was able to translate them. And I feel like God always speaks to me through dreams as
oh
well.
wow, that's
I have
amazing.
such vivid dreams sometimes.
Yeah,
I feel like
That's amazing.
they're crazy. Like if I tell
So
you, you
cool.
think they're crazy. But like God always speaks to me through dreams, and sometimes I don't know till it happens, and then I'm like, that's what it meant.
Do you have like a dream journal?
I do.
Okay, that's
For
cool.
that reason.
That's cool.
For that same reason. It's
I had a roommate one time in Denton. He had a dream journal. Like I didn't know it was a dream journal. He had this book, and like by his like I guess nightstand, and I was like, "Oh, what's that big thick book?" He's like, "Oh, that's my dream journal." And I was like, "What is a dream journal?" And he was telling me like, "I dream like everything. Like I dream something every night, and I just like write it down." And I'm like, "That is so cool."
Yeah.
It's something I do, but I just don't remember my dreams,
Yeah.
and so sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Oh,
Not
no.
consistently like you, but
Yeah, no.
That's awesome.
I wake up. I go in and out of sleep too much. So
Yeah.
like by the time I finally do wake up, I don't remember all of my dreams.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'll remember certain dreams, even dreams I had from like 10 years ago. I still remember them.
Yeah.
Because that's how strong and how
That's
vivid, how
amazing.
real,
Yeah.
how just crazy they were. And
do I remember a dream from 10 years ago? I don't
I
know.
know. I was just
Oh,
thinking that too.
really?
I'm like,
no
yeah,
way.
I
No.
don't.
I'm gonna think about that.
Crazy.
I'm gonna think about that this week.
Remember.
You gave me some homework.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have like bits and pieces of dreams from
Yeah.
a long time ago.
No.
But
Really?
they were like obscure and scary.
Really?
So,
Yeah.
Like
Well, my dreams are very scary too. If I tell you about some of them, they're creepy. But
she had a dream that she was, or was it a dream about speaking on stages?
That's cool.
Oh, that was a vision.
Yeah.
That was a
That's
so
vision.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
that was,
awesome.
That was right after I got baptized.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
She's got stage fright.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I do.
I would never think. You seem
Yeah.
so calm and poised on the mic.
Guys, y'all need to go back and listen to one of our episodes. It's called Overcoming the Fear of Judgment, where
yeah.
I talk about the fear I have of speaking in a crowd or just to people and how God called me to do this. And this is the way that I speak. I know.
If you're not already, please go ahead, like and subscribe to the Bella Grayce Podcast right now. What are you doing?
Go.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So
So I want to piggyback off of that because we've gone all over the place and we talked about like laying the foundation, right? Like laying the foundation. As Christians, we believe that everything we do is rooted in Christ. Like that's our foundation. But I feel like, and I have 5 brothers. I lived with my dad until he passed away when I was 8. So I have a ton of boy cousins. I've always been around my boy cousins. I've always been drawn to guys. Like I've most of my like really close friendships are with guys. Like I've just always been drawn to guys, boys, men, whatever stage of life that I was in. But so you talked about the fear of judgment. You brought that up, and I was like, ding, ding, ding.
Oh my
I'm
God.
looping it back to men's health and men's mental health because I feel like so many men neglect their mental health and their physical health out of fear of judgment.
That's a very interesting. Yeah, thoughts.
Okay.
100%. I mean, let's look at the statistics. I mean, first of all, we'll take my group. I think of, let's say, the 20 people, maybe 3 are guys.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of guys are just probably scared. They think they're fearful of just being vulnerable. I think a lot of us, we're ingrained from a young age, you know, you got to be tough. You got to make sure you take it on the chin and make sure, like, you know, it's part of the machismo culture too.
Don't cry. Please don't cry.
Yeah.
That's toxic masculinity that society has put on men since they were little boys. And I feel like that's why a lot of men, I have a lot of friends too who happen to be guys. And they would always talk to me and tell me about certain things that they would go through. And I would always advise them. And I'm like, why can't they tell this? Why do they have to come and tell a girl this? Instead of their guy friends? That's why they're guy friends. But I realized it was because they were being judged, or they would think they were weak, or they weren't man enough. And it's this thing men just have with one another. But it doesn't have to be that way.
No, and I feel like, especially now, maybe it's starting to change a little bit more where we are starting to see guys, I think, speak up about mental health. And I think that's how it should be. I think you can be a tough guy and also know how to be vulnerable about yourself. First of all, I think a lot of guys are not just scared, but I think there's also an ego behind it. I feel like there's a pride component behind being able to be honest with, yes, I do have a problem. No, this is not normal. No, I need to speak and reach out to a professional. No, I can't handle this on my own. This is not normal. But a lot of us get so caged by our ego. I think for me, when I was on my journey to find out what mental health was even about, I was invulnerable with myself. I wasn't honest with myself, and I didn't know I had all these things, all these issues until I first started learning more about the topic itself. And then started thinking, okay, like I struggle with this too, but I just never thought of it that way because I was like, quote unquote, trying to like mask it off or trying to numb it with something or just anything, like, you know what I mean? And so like, I think a lot of times like that will hinder us from even growing, I think, as individuals. So.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So since you I know that you work with other people, you have 3 men in your group. Yeah. Like, what are things that they struggle with, or you struggle as a man with your mental health? Like what? I know that everyone has their struggles, but men don't talk about them. Right. So what are some things that you have struggled with, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think number one, I think anxiety was always kind of at the forefront for me. Anxiety always about the fear about things that haven't happened before. And I think a lot of men will relate to this. We love to be in control. Same women like to be in control too, but men especially, we love to be in control. We want to know the outcome. That's me. And so how did I overcome that? You know, I took 2 different approaches. A practical one was like, what's the best way to put myself in a position where I'm not in control and I don't, like, sure, I'll be anxious, but sure, I have no control over the situation. And so I just started doing a lot of solo traveling. And so I just was like, I'm going to put myself in situations and places where I don't know how the city works, what the country works, what people are saying. And so it's going to be exciting and fun, but at the same time kind of crazy because I'm like, I want to know what's going on and I don't know. And
I
so,
meant to put that in the beginning, in your intro. I was going to say, this is Arthur. He is a world traveler.
No.
A podcast co-host.
I try to go out when I can, certainly not.
He's crazy, guys.
No, you're so funny. And so,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing to be able to try new things, to step outside of your comfort zone. And maybe for you, maybe it's not traveling, but maybe it's like putting yourself out there in like a small Bible study or a small connect group where you don't know anybody. And so, but you can trust that people like them in the connect group are going to be loving and encouraging towards you and give you hope. And so because we both have something in common, we both love Jesus Christ, we both want to have a relationship with him. And so that's another thing that I tell the guys in my group as well as the girls in our group. I'm like, hey, like we can cut the awkwardness out of here, like be yourself. And so like you heard me say this. I tell everybody every Thursday when we meet, I'm like, guys, we're scheduled to get off at 8, just in time for everybody to watch Jersey Shore. And and everybody laughs. But part of it is true. I do like Jersey Shore, but also because like, don't be afraid to be yourself. And it's like, don't feel like you have to put on your Christian masks now. Now I have to put my Christian clothes on. I have to put my Christian mindset on to be able to sit at the table with all the other Christians, right? No. It's not like that. Jesus sat at the table with everybody, didn't he? He sat with the tax collector, with the prostitute, with all people with all different walks of life. And we should too, without that judgmental aspect. Yeah. And so why does anxiety pop up? Because we're trying to conform into this image that people want us to live.
Yes. Because we all want to be liked.
Yes.
Yes. No, that goes right back to what we were talking about on this last week's episode of control. Mm-hmm. A lot of times our need to control is rooted in some sort of fear.
Yep.
Or the unknown, the fear of the unknown. And that's also where our anxiety is rooted.
Yeah. Well, and then think about it, like, men, I think, also feel it too because they're called to be leaders of the household, or what I mean? And so even from a young age, let's say they lost, their dad or something, sometimes they have to grow up super quick and now they have to fill these shoes. And that's a lot of pressure for one person to have.
For one child to have.
There you go. Yeah. And so we weren't meant to bear it all on our own, right? And so we have that power through Jesus Christ. I think one of my favorite scriptures that can give you some hope, and if you're listening here, you can always put this in the back of your head. Psalm 56:3. Whenever I'm afraid, I put my trust in you. And you know who said that? King David said that. One of the richest people in all of the Bible. And so if somebody like him went through fear, who had everything under the sun, how much more encouraging is it for us to be able to come to God and tell him, hey, God, I'm fearful, but I'm putting my trust in you.
Yeah.
And so
that's so good. Yeah. King David, he was one of the richest men. He had everything. Like, he wrote the Psalms. And if you read the Psalms, they're very vulnerable.
Oh, yes, they are.
And that's when you were talking about toxic masculinity. I was going to bring up the fact that, but yes, society says that men should be strong. Men should should be, they should be healthy. They should be the head of the household.
I think we have an unrealistic expectation of men. Yep. But then if you go deep into the Bible and you read, you realize that all these men were submitting to God. They were walking with God. God was guiding them, constantly talking to them. They were praying and they weren't alone. And they had a strong woman by their side who also prayed over them and helped them.
Wow, that's
so
good.
I feel like a lot of us, sometimes we don't give enough credit to the men in our life, whether they're brothers or cousins or uncles or dads, our husbands. We're always just like, he's fine, he's a man, he's fine. But
I've heard that before.
We stop and realize that they need prayer too.
Yeah, we all
they are human. They are they have feelings and they matter and they also need something. They need help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they can't do everything by themselves.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like none of us are immune to the troubles of this world, but we have that peace through Jesus, right? At the end of the day. So it's like, I think another one of my favorite verses that I have to share, John 16, verse 33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. Jesus was saying this. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Yeah. And so that's incredibly encouraging because it's like, great. I don't have to have it all figured out. No. Great. I can have peace through Jesus. Yeah. Yes, it does give me the guarantee that I will have troubles, but guess what? Jesus overcome the world. And so we can overcome it as well having a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah,
So,
and you're
yeah.
not alone. You're
Exactly.
never alone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
good.
love the safe space that you've created for the guys in the mental health group.
Yeah.
I walked up to the tennis court, and it was you,
Yep, Miguel and Rogelio.
Rogelio, yes. And was there even a girl there at that point?
Not at that time.
No,
Not
it was
that time.
just us.
Just us three. Yeah, we were early.
And I felt welcomed. I felt safe.
Great,
I
I'm
felt
glad.
cared for.
Yes.
And those guys, all three of you I already know, and like we just pick up where we left off, no matter how long it's been since we've seen each other.
I know, that's so true.
Yeah.
It's
love
easy
that
to
for you
easy to
guys.
talk to you, Teresa.
Yeah.
And you too, Rosie. And I just met you today. But
Wow.
by the way, same.
Thank you.
But the other two guys, like, I felt safe, I felt cared for, like, and they immediately were just like open.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
were open books, and
Yeah.
we talked about
Oh,
their
yeah.
struggles. And I know I always tell
Wow.
people, I think I have the word counselor or like helper etched across my forehead because it never fails. People just open up to me, but
Spiritual gift.
yeah,
Yeah,
and people
yeah,
just
definitely.
like lay it all out
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
But these two guys, like, we talked about some hard stuff.
Yeah, on the tennis court. I think
On the tennis court.
we're not even done
Amazing.
stretching, and guess what?
And it just started. But
Yeah.
it was so refreshing
Yeah.
to have guys talk about their struggles like that
Yeah.
openly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like there wasn't like walls, there wasn't fear of judgment. It was like, this is who I am, this is what I've struggled with,
Yeah.
this is where I
Yeah.
am right now in my struggle. I am currently struggling.
Yeah.
And like having them be open like that, I wish more men felt that secure in their foundation,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
in their foundation in God, in their the foundation of their identity,
Yeah.
to be able to talk about stuff like that.
I love
And
that.
I know
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah, and that's, I think, I think I have that position to be able to be that example for other guys, because I think a lot of guys maybe might not be able to do that naturally, but I think whenever one of us might see somebody else like model some behavior that we really can start to say, oh, okay, maybe it's not so bad. Oh, wow, they're going through the same thing I'm going through. And I think a lot of the times, like, if we just put ourselves out there, you just never know like exactly like who it is that you're going to impact as well. And so I think that's really cool, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, and I think what's missing also, I think, in men's mental health, I feel like, is a lot of like strong leadership. I think that needs to happen. I feel like, and not just with men, but I feel like just in general as well. And I feel like at some point in time, I don't know, I want to put together. I think I've told you this, Teresa. I want to put together like a leadership group or a leadership connect group or a leadership meet at some point with all of us who lead in any capacity, but also in small Bible study groups, to really understand what is working. How is it that we are reaching? Are we impacting? What is it that we can learn from each other's mistakes? And how is it that we can continue to impact people and love people exactly where they're at? I think the reason why is because I think my worst fear is actually having somebody go to a connect group and then feeling like, man, like nobody talked to me, nobody
Not
saw
feeling
me.
welcome.
Yeah. And I feel like, and I get it. We're all learning. We're all new, and we don't all have these handles figured out. And I think we've all messed up everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think like we can certainly, I think, fill that void, that gap. Because especially with my connect group, it is a sensitive topic. Mental health is a sensitive topic. People that are joining are seriously on the brink of a lot of hard issues.
Oh, yeah.
I will spend probably 7, 8, maybe 10 hours a week talking to different individuals on the phone about different issues that they're going through, and I'm just pouring life into them.
Wow.
And so, it's something that I really love. I have this one-on-one relationship with people that are in my group and friends and stuff that I can call friends. And it's just that great time for them to also just see, I feel like, community in a different way, just seeing that. And one thing that I love that a pastor one time said is like, sometimes one of the best encounters that Jesus ever had was with people one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so we can be that for other people as well. And so, I feel like leadership, I'm learning so much. I definitely don't know it all, and I've made mistakes, obviously, but I feel like really just going, I think, that extra mile, going above and beyond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for guys to try to change the environment of manhood?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, like for instance, like that's a great question. I think a lot of men really have to get outside of their head and just tell themselves, I don't have it all figured out. I think it starts with looking at the man in the mirror. Yeah, it's like I think we have to have it all figured out. We've been ingrained to have it figured out.
Yes.
But in order to change, you have to tell yourself that, hey, I don't have it all figured out, and there's still stuff that I can learn, and it's okay. It's okay. If I am sensitive towards this area of my life, that's totally fine. It's totally good, because guess what? There's other people in that same walk of life. You are not weird just because you struggle with anxiety, or you struggle with depression, or you struggle with all these other feelings.
Yeah.
Just know that, hey, like, you're going through a rough patch. And one things that I really love to tell people all the time is like, I mean, anxiety, first of all, anxiety is our fight or flight. Actually, anxiety is a good thing.
Yeah.
So if you've ever been on 635, you ever been in traffic and somebody cut you off and you had to slam on your brakes,
And your heart starts
beating, that was anxiety.
I live on the other side of
Yeah.
Dallas, so for
Yeah.
me it's 20. That's
20,
horrible.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy too.
Bad.
So you all know what it is to slam on your brakes in order for you to stop from hitting that car. So that was anxiety in motion. Anxiety is a good thing. It'll keep you alive. But a lot of the times what's happening is like, with your body is sometimes misreading the things around you, and your fight or flight's kicking in for no reason. And so I think a lot of times, also ask yourself, if you're a man, just ask yourself, things that you have in your life, are they adding value or are they taking away value?
That's a good one.
I mean, a lot of times, like, I know, like, there's some people who can have a good life, drink alcohol, and it doesn't faze them. But for you, if it's really putting you back, setting you back, hurting people's lives, or it hurting your own life, and just having you wake up in the morning and you're starting at like -10 where you could be at 15 or 20, like, think about it. Maybe that's something that you could do away with. Or maybe it's not alcohol. Maybe it's weed. Or maybe it's not weed. Maybe it's like clubbing, partying, and drinking all that. Or maybe it's not that. Maybe it's porn. Maybe, I don't know if y'all talk, I think y'all have talked about just porn and that.
We talk about everything.
Everything, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And so I've been free from porn now for about 3 years. I haven't touched it. And so, but that is just a huge, like hindrance in your mind and your body and your soul. It's like something that totally starts like activating in your mind. All your blood starts rushing, and all of a sudden it's just like, so it's throwing your body out of whack. Mix it in with alcohol, mix it in with all these other things that we have around the world.
Yeah.
It's a recipe for disaster. And so a lot of times we are like, you ever seen like you ever gone to the grocery store with your husbands or something like that, and you tell him to get a cart, and he's like, no, it's fine. I can carry it all. And so a lot of the time,
like this.
and then at the end of the day, we're like this, and you're just like, hey, can you carry the dog food now? Because we need dog food. And they're just like, I need a cart. And so it's just like, a lot of us are doing that in real life. We're carrying so much, and we can't fit anything else on our plate. We can't carry anything else. And so we have to finally figure out and let go of what doesn't need to be in our lives.
Yeah.
But if all of that takes a serious toll on your physical health.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you've been in fight or flight mode for so long that you've got a cortisol, a surplus of cortisol in your body, and you can't lose weight, and then your heart health starts to decrease.
Right.
And you've got high cholesterol and high blood pressure, and all because you were trying to carry so much for so long. That not only has it affected your mental health, it's affected your relationships. It's now affecting your physical health.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, it'll start to bleed over in different areas of your life, and you just have to be cognizant before it gets to that boiling point. And I talk to a lot of people on the phone, and a lot of them don't reach out until that boiling point. And, and
that's where I was going to go next.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Good segue.
And it could all be resolved if men felt safe asking for help before their arms got full.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're traveling on this freeway called life, and we're seeing the signs that are coming up, and it's like last exit to this exit till you get off on this exit, and we're just ignoring it and we're ignoring it, and pretty soon we're 50 miles down the road before we finally start to say, I should have got off at the exit 20 minutes ago, or I should have got off at the exit 5 years ago, whenever this was first a small problem. Now it's a huge problem. And so the big decisions of today are the small decisions of yesterday. So
yes. Oh my God, that was so good. that one. Oh my gosh, that's gonna be a reel. That's gonna be a little clip it reel from that one. But yeah, it's so true. And I know so many people. So all of my uncles grew up drinking beer. Yeah. My whole family, and then you wake up one day and it's like, oh, I'm waiting on test results from the doctor because they found a spot on my lung or on my liver or my whatever. Right. And it breaks my heart. And I was watching what was I watching earlier? Oh, Grey's Anatomy. My daughter and
Classic.
we've been watching Grey's Anatomy. And the patient needs a new liver. And the daughter, they're both in sobriety, the adult daughter and the mother. And the doctor is saying, blah, 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 blah. And the daughter says, well, what does that mean? And the mother says, it means be grateful that you got sober at a young age.
Wow.
That's good.
And it's sad, but we take on so much. Yeah. And I think men are especially guilty of it. They take on the stress. They take on the pressure. Yeah. They have a need to perform at work. They have a need to perform at home.
You're describing me.
Yeah. And there's that pressure to just be top dog all the time. Right. And then you drink, you smoke, you watch porn, you do whatever you need to release.
Quick fixes or short-term fixes.
To try to release all of that stress and tension that you've got held up.
Right.
And then before you know it, you're addicted to this, you're addicted to that, you're stopping at, and maybe it's not substances or alcohol for you or porn, maybe it's food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know I'm guilty of that. Hey, sign me up for that Whataburger in the middle of the night and just give me that double meat Whataburger. Add extra cheese, please. Large fry.
I'm hungry.
Whataburger after this.
Yeah. And he just ate Chick-fil-A.
Hey. Shout out Chick-fil-A, new sponsor.
Yeah, but all those affect your overall well-being, like physically, mentally, and even the relationships around you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like, you can argue all day, all night about where the line is with alcohol, with porn, and with alcohol specifically. I feel like, many people are able to balance that. And, for me, my whole philosophy is like, why am I trying to balance something? Why am I trying to balance fire? Because I feel like one of these days I'm just going to get burned. And only because I know myself and so I don't, look down on anybody who does drink alcohol and is able to function, fine and great without it. And, being a social drinker here and there, 1 or 2 drinks or whatever. That's cool. That's awesome. That's great. For me, that's not the case. And so I had to let it go because it was just more of a hindrance than a help for me. And so I blanking out on the verse, but I love what I think it says in New Testament. I think it's in Matthew and Mark. It says, all things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial to me. And so, it's just incredibly important to know, it can be legal all day, all night. Doesn't mean it's great for us.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who can fully function and do their thing. And that's not for me.
It's not for me.
Yeah, I have no off switch, so it doesn't work for me. But
I'm a light drinker, so it's more than enough for me. I'm
She had one beer at my birthday.
Oh, did you really?
Okay, it's time for me to go home.
Yeah, I get sleepy. I'm just okay.
You have good willpower, though. That's great.
We don't have that.
No, I do not have that. When I used to drink, let me tell you, I want to feel like I'm floating above the clouds. I feel like I want to be the life of the party. Yeah. I feel like, have you ever seen the movie The Mask with Jim Carrey? Yeah. That was me. That was basically my life story. And so,
Have you heard his story?
No, I have to.
You gotta go back.
Oh my gosh.
Go back. There's lots of hidden gems in that one.
I have to,
Yeah, you'll have to go back and listen to his story because it's crazy.
No, I guess I just never saw the purpose of it.
That's
awesome.
I
just never felt the need.
Awesome.
Because I was just like, I don't know, weird. Maybe I'm just that weirdo. I don't
No,
know.
I think you're that
I
strong.
wish
I think
was
that's
that
great.
way. Yeah, I wish I
Yeah.
was that way, but no, that's not my story.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we all have our things, right? And so,
Yeah.
you know, maybe drinking's not your thing. Maybe you struggle with other things, and I just feel like you have to be vulnerable and honest. And maybe it starts with, if you can't be vulnerable and honest with yourself, maybe you ask your wife, your girlfriend, or your mom, your dad, or sibling, best friend, ask them, like, you know, what would you say is something that is kind of like eating up at me and I'm not seeing it? You know, somebody you trust that you can kind of give you some honest feedback. And yeah, just prepare yourself because they'll tell you the honest thing, and you know you just have to be receptive to that.
Yeah.
And so I think we can learn a lot because sometimes there are blind spots in our lives. So.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I was talking to someone today, and we were talking about this exact topic about how there's not always someone in your life that you can go to ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
Because everyone has their own opinion. And when you ask for their advice, they give you their opinion based on their own life experiences.
Yep.
And so, how would you address that? Like, what would you say in response to that?
Well, you know what? I don't obviously start there. I'll go one step before that.
Okay.
So anytime somebody asks me for advice, I really try to ask them questions before I give them any type of advice to understand really where they're at. Because I don't want to give them advice and it's totally far left of what it is that they've done or have gone through or have already experienced. And so I like to do what's called a temperature check. And I like to ask them like, hey, like, especially if they're one of my great Christian friends, I like to ask them like, hey, like, so what does your walk with Christ look like right now? I'm curious, you know.
I remember this from the podcast.
Yeah, you have been listening. Okay, all right. And so, and I asked him, and so a lot of the times what ends up happening, I end up hearing all the time, 9 times out of 10, it's like, well, I'm going to church, and I'm showing up for church, and I'm going in and day out, and so I'm like, okay, great, and I'm in this group, and I'm going, and I'm assisting, I'm like, that's awesome. Let me ask you this last question. So, how many times are you diving into the Word? Well, I don't have the time and I'm busy and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. So I'm really getting at is like, you're not really finding ways to be intimate with God. So for you, you're kind of checking in with God on a certain day or time, maybe a couple times a week. How would it feel if your husband's only checked on you once or twice a week? You probably wouldn't have the best relationship,
No.
right?
No.
Okay, and
There's space, there's distance, there's coldness.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are treating Jesus that exact same way as well. I think
It's
a lot
an emergency.
or get a get out of jail free card, metaphorically and maybe literally. And I think a lot of times what we can do is start to just dive in deeper in our relationship with God because He's ready to have a relationship with us. He just wants us to meet us halfway. So I really tried to go from that unbiased, like that has nothing to do with me. I don't want to give you like my opinion. I want to give you God's truth. And that's what I want to lead with, because my opinion is exactly that. It's my opinion. And if you want to hear my opinion, I'll give you my opinion, but I'm always going to lead with God's truth first, because that's just going to be much more life fulfilling than anything else that I could ever tell you.
Yeah, because they're not your words, they're God's words.
Exactly.
It's scripture. It's not
Yeah.
your opinion.
Yeah.
It's not,
Exactly. And then also when it comes to mental health, not just God's word, but I also leaned into asking them, are you seeking professional help? Because guess what? I don't have all the answers, and I don't even consider myself a professional.
Yeah.
I've had some very, very intense, tough conversations with people regarding things that they're going through, and I have to be very sensitive to the fact of, first of all, I know where they're at. I have to know where they're at, and I have to be able to speak that love, that grace towards them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'll give you some advice. Texting is not the best way to go about it. Always jump on a call. People can kind of misread a text and be like, what did you mean by that? And I'm just like, no, let me jump on a call. Like, you see, the way you read it, trust me, I'm the least threatening guy you have to be worried about. And so, like, that's not what I'm trying to be. And so, like, always jump on a call if you can, face-to-face, if you can. If I am face-to-face, I love to meet in a group setting with people. But more so, I think I'll jump on a call with you because I'm more available that way. But doing that and also just telling them, hey, like, let's get you professional help. And oftentimes that is a great way to get them plugged into some good Christian therapists. And I have a network of Christian therapists that I connect with and stuff like that, so that I can call good friends. And you weren't there the last time I invited my own therapist, and so she was on there last time, and she was able to give our group just some good handles on what it looks like to be a Christian, but also, yeah, like what can I do today to start impacting my mental health? And so there's lots of things that you can do. And so, yeah, like as a leader, I love being available for the people, and I love giving that word of encouragement. And yeah, like I can tell you what worked for me, but I always want to lead with God's truth. And let's see how we can get you some help. Let's see, like, I always want to tell them, like, when I do get off the phone with them, everybody gets off feeling like a weight has been lifted. First of all, because they got it off their chest, one, and they realize there is hope. There is like the light at the end of the tunnel for them to actually, they're not alone. And so it's incredibly amazing to see that. It's just like, the call starts off a certain way, and they just, by the end of it, they're just like, we end up laughing and we're just talking, and then I feel like 9 times out of 10 it's like that, if not all the time, and it's amazing. That's amazing what God's word will do. So
So all right, I'm going to summarize what I think we have touched on. I always mess up.
Go for it.
Rosie and I always laugh. Okay, so we've talked about like setting the foundation for your mental, physical well-being with God, and being grounded in your identity in Christ.
Right.
And I always, because I know, we have people who listen who aren't believers. So I always, Rosie, we always do this back and forth. Yeah. Like I give the world summarized.
Yeah, the secular version.
Yes, the secular version. So what that looks like is really being rooted in who you are. Mm-hmm. Because when you don't know who you are, you don't know your identity, you don't know your gifts, you don't know your purpose and your passions in this life, then you can't be healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, because you're going to be that person trying to carry everything through the grocery store by yourself.
Yeah.
And so it really starts with being rooted in who you are. And for Christians, that's who you are in Christ.
Yeah.
And then asking for help.
Yeah. So
before you get overwhelmed.
Yes.
And I think so many men struggle with that.
100%.
Yeah.
They struggle with being vulnerable.
Been there.
They struggle with being open and honest about where they are.
Yep. And I just add one more thing to that. I feel like men, and if you're in a relationship with whomever, like I think you can start to foster that vibe, or just with that spouse, you just start to create that openness, and just
that
have
safe space.
Yeah, that safe space, exactly. It's like, hey, let's check in, let's see how we're doing, like let's talk what's going on in our minds.
And I think you were talking about how you approach talking to a friend or someone in your Connect group who's struggling. And you come at it with questions. And I'm a mental health professional. I'm a mental health coach. And so that is what we do. And that is what you do in counseling. I'm getting my certification in counseling.
Woo! Let's go.
But so that is what you do. You go into it not to give advice, not to give answers, but to really come at it with open-ended questions, asking them things that will help them become aware of what is already inside of them. Because a lot of times the answers to our questions, the answers to our problems, they're inside of us already.
100%,
And a lot of times you just need to get it off your chest. Like you said, talk to someone. Bring it out in the open and be able to talk through it with someone. And maybe that's your wife, maybe it's your girlfriend, your partner, whoever, a friend, a leader from the church, maybe it's someone at work. A lot of workplaces have like an employee health plan, whatever. What is it called? Employee health program?
That's it.
Employee assistance program.
Something like that.
EAP program. So it's an employee assistance program, and it's where you can go for mental health. A lot of companies have that, and you can talk to someone. But getting it out in the open, talking about it, acknowledging that something is going on, and don't just ignore it.
So I'll just say this. Maybe men don't struggle with this, but now I'm talking to everybody, women included. I think we have to acknowledge, certainly, let's not overfeed it though. I just caution against that because I feel like we don't need our feelings being the driver to our lives. And so like, I love telling the story. I've said this before on the on our podcast. And so like, I love saying this. It's like, I had 2 bonsai trees in my life. The first bonsai tree I ever had, it died because I neglected to water it. I didn't give it what it needed, right? Okay. The second one I got, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't die. So what did I do?
You loved it to death.
I loved it to death. I gave it too much water. And guess what? It died. So what does this all mean? Why am I talking to you about bonsai trees and watering? Well, the same thing with our feelings too. I think that on one side of the coin, we can end up totally ignoring our feelings and just like things bubble up and we explode. But then on the other side too, we can just be like on our feelings beck and call too much to the point where we're letting them run the show. And when that becomes the truth, that's chaotic. And so it's this balance of like, okay, I want to check in with myself, but I also don't want to dwell in that space as well.
Yeah. So I always tell people, like, we need to check in on your feelings. Tell me how you're feeling. Yeah. But that's not where we're going to live.
Right.
We're not going to live
That's
there.
Good.
We need to acknowledge the feelings, but we also need to come up with a plan on how to change whatever it is that is causing these feelings.
Yeah. It's like and I was gonna save this for our podcast, but I'll say it right now because this is too good.
Wait, you're saving the good stuff for no.
I feel called by the Lord to share this. Like, well, for instance, I was gonna make a video tomorrow at the airport because I am flying out tomorrow, and so I was gonna make a video about like. I was gonna make a video just telling everybody on the video, just letting them know like how interesting it is that, you know, when we go to airports, when we go to hotels, nobody is ever faced with that fact of I'm gonna stay here forever. I'm going to stay in this airport forever. I'm going to stay in this hotel forever. Everybody knows that it's a place that we're going to go to and we're going to leave. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we have to treat that with our mental health struggles as well, in the sense that, okay, I am facing this, but I know this is not where I'm always going to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like, it's just another good way to put it.
Yeah, that's good.
Emotions aren't forever.
Yeah.
There you go.
And your
seasons
emotions
aren't forever.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Everything changes. Mm-hmm. I always tell my daughter, in time, this too shall pass.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. It's so true. So good.
Nothing lasts forever.
Nothing.
But if you don't take care of your mental health, the physical effects that it can have can last forever.
There you go. Yeah.
And be the reason that you die too soon. So I think it is really important for people, for men especially.
Yes.
Women, we tend to be better at it. And June is Men's Health Month. And so it is, I wanted to do this, Rosie and I wanted to do this to talk about men's mental health and physical health.
Yes, because so men in the United States have a higher risk of committing suicide 4 times the rate as women in the United States. And so that just says something about our society and what's going on here. But there's just so many men in our lives, whether they're brothers or dads or husbands or boyfriends. I feel like it's important for us to create a safe space for them to speak and validate their emotions and just be willing to listen to them. Because sometimes all they need to do is just let it out and talk about it. We don't have to try to fix anything for them. Sometimes they just need a shoulder to cry on if they want to cry, which is okay. Because they have emotions, they have feelings.
Real men cry.
Yes. Do you need a tissue?
On that note, Kleenex, the sponsor of this podcast.
Oh, God. But it is important for us to check upon them and see how they're doing and how we can, as women, as sisters, as friends, how we can be more supportive and caring and loving and just be there for them.
That's good. I love that. Yeah, it's make sure you check in with your people. And whenever they just tell you like, I'm good, just tell them, no, really, how are you doing?
How are you? Did you have breakfast?
Yeah.
no, let's go get breakfast.
Yeah.
Or like, what have you been doing?
Mhm.
Or let's go work out. Or, you know.
A better way to ask that question too, that I notice with people is like, tell me one good thing and one bad thing that happened to you this week, and it's a good little in to get you into them sharing.
It helps people open up.
Yeah, that's what I do with my kids when I pick them up. What was the highlight of your day and what was not it?
Yeah. We do best, worst, mediocre.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what you're learning today is like us guys, we're just big kids at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All adults are just
Another Grey's Anatomy line. We're all just toddlers walking around with what are they called? The little
Scapulas?
Scapulas and
Or scalpels?
Scalpels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scapulas right here.
and something. Anyway, yeah. So
I'm not a doctor, so I'd be the last person you want to ask. You don't want me operating on you.
But we are. We're all just big kids. Like we all need to feel needed, wanted, heard, loved, and accepted.
Facts.
Of course.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. So, any last words?
Any last words? Yeah, I got some last words. Here we go. A message to the men. Let's start being men, and let's start being honest, and let's start being leaders, and one way to be a good leader, let's just start being a little bit more vocal about what's going on in here, and let's stop carrying what we don't need to carry. We have great people around us, and if you don't, guess what? If you just join maybe a connect group, you just open up to one of your best friends, I guarantee that you're going to actually start to see life change happen.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Bella Grayce Podcast. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Rosie. And Arthur.
I'm Arthur.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me so much. This was so much fun.
Yes.
And
All right. Well, until next time, guys. Bye.